Okay, it is in my sent folder.
All right, we're going to call it to order. We've got a quorum, so if we could get everybody together. Can we start? Hey, Lisa, you ready? All right, I'm going to call to order the Solid Waste Authority Executive Committee of March 30, 2026. If you would, please call the roll.
Chair Ryan,
Present.
Vice Chair Ferg,
Here.
Member Shuham. Here.
En route.
Member Mateo Bowen. Member Dunn. On her way. Member Rydell. Member Mead.
Here.
Member Caggiano.
Present.
Member AJ Ryan.
Here.
Member Newton.
Here.
Any alternates?
Yeah, Denise.
Member Bright Cruz.
Here.
Member Cindy Murphy Solomona.
Here virtually.
Thank you. Member Colborn. Member Geller. Thank you.
Mr. Cole, we have a quorum? We do. All right, if you would, please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, public comments. Richard Ramchartar. There you go. You're good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, perfect.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Executive Committee, and members of the public. My name is Richard Ramcharata. I'm the Executive Director of Broward Clean Air. I'm here today to respectfully urge you to move the master plan and facilities amendment forward to the member cities without further delay. Today is the International Day of Zero Waste, a global call to action for governments to move decisively toward sustainable, resilient waste systems. That makes today's discussion especially meaningful because Broward County is being asked to do exactly that, take the next step forward. This process has been thorough and thoughtful, and that work is appreciated. But at this stage, it's important to recognize that progress matters more than perfection. This master plan is a living framework. It can and should be refined over time. Moving forward does not close the door to improvement. It opens the door to it. What does carry risk is continued delay. Residents and taxpayers are looking for leadership, direction, and momentum. They are counting on you to act in their long-term interest and to ensure a system that is reliable, sustainable, and prepared for the future. There has been ample opportunity to review and strengthen this plan. We are ready for the next step. On a day that highlights the global importance of responsible waste management, I respectfully ask you to demonstrate that same leadership here in Broward County by advancing the master plan and facilities amendment to the member cities. The opportunity is here, the need is clear, and the time to act is now. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else that signed up for public comment? All right, I'll close public comment. Could I get a motion to move up? Let's get to the discussion on the master plan and the issues on 9, 10, and 11. Motion by member Materbo, seconded by member Caggiano. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, master plan, section 9. Daniel, if you could come up. At the last meeting, there was an issue raised regarding the alignment of the master plan with technical requirements of the ILA, more particularly 7.1.1 of the ILA. The county raised these issues. I want to thank the county attorney's office, SCS, Mr. Cole, our executive director, and the work that went in this week. While the specific issues in 7.1.1, I think were touched throughout the master plan, I think it is helpful to create a section that identifies specifically compliance with and reference to the areas of the master plan to eliminate any legal arguments that could ever be raised in that regard. And to that point, SCS, in working with the county attorney's office, developed a new section that outlines all the 7.1.1 provisions with specific textual language that identifies full compliance of the master plan and full alignment of the master plan with the ILA. I apologize to the members in how this got out. I remind everyone that we were here a week ago. There are, I think Daniel would tell us, only so many hours in the day. And we've used every bit of that all week to get this done. So Daniel, if you could, I'll open to,
Okay.
you want to talk first on this one before he talks?
Just
Okay.
real quick. I know last week I'd kind of brought a surprise here. But it was, you know, it's one of those things, we only had so much time. We were trying to get it all done. But I do want to thank our attorneys for making sure that this is tight for all of us. And that you know, that we don't have any problems down the road. I also want to thank Natasha Austin, who knows more about garbage in this county than anybody else. And when she says you need to be looking at some things, I listen to her. And so by doing that, I know it's probably might have been a better way to do it. But I'm glad we're where we are today, and no surprises today.
Okay, Daniel, if you would just outline the issues of 7.1.1 and how you recommended aligning the master plan with the ILA.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Council, members of the Executive Committee, Daniel Deitch with SES Engineers. Just as what was stated, there is a new section 15 in the master plan. I believe it was distributed to you over the weekend. It's also available on the website. And there are specific provisions within the ILA that need to be satisfied through the master plan. That has been done. So I just call your attention to the new section 15 that addresses the revenue requirements and reserve funds, diversion sites, disposal sites and waste processing, diversion plans, solid waste reduction strategies, recyclable and recoverable materials processing, public education, alternative and contingency facilities, disposal methods prohibited to protect drinking water, additional governing board goals and strategies for solid waste obligations. Some of these matters are addressed directly within the master plan or referenced through those sections. Others are future conditions, and we set the intention for how that will be satisfied when those matters are presented to the authority. I would also like to thank representatives from the authority, from the county, both from the county attorney's office and staff that helped us address these matters directly, and I'm very glad that they are now in the master plan and hopefully resolves this matter for all parties.
Okay. The specific pages within task 13 are pages 43 through 45. I don't know if anyone wants to see those up on the screen, but each of the sections 7.1.1 through 7.1.1.8 have been identified. Mr. Cole, have you also gone over the language that has been proposed both by the county and by SES?
Yes, I have, and I think this is adequate.
Okay. All right. I'll open up to members. Member Shuham.
I just want to say that, we were a little taken aback at the last meeting, but I think this is a great addition to the master plan. And not only is it there for us now, but it will be there going forward. So as little tweaks and changes are made to this living document, we can always come back to this section to make sure we're in compliance with the ILA. So I really just want to say thank you to the county attorney's office and your office and everybody that was involved in doing it. I think it's a positive change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Matera-Bone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I want to thank you, Daniel, and Mr. May for coming to present to the city of Coral Springs. We had a workshop. A lot of the concerns my colleagues had, thank you for answering them. Just want to make sure that as we continue to develop this master plan, that there continues to be open dialogue and that we are able to make the edits that we need. It's not clear, very clear to my colleagues, the number, the vote, the percentage of us here who have to, in order to make that change. So can we make sure we highlight that in some type of way to ensure that we need a 2/3 votes in order to make any changes to the master plan. Sometimes that is not very clear. So thank you so much.
I think it's a hugely important issue. I think one of the concerns that Member Matera-Bone and her colleagues and others we see are worried that somehow they'll get into this and then there'll be a simple change based on majority or even less. And I think that the benefit of how this has been structured with the governing board and each city having a seat, unlike the Resource Recovery Board, mandates that there's at least a high threshold for any major changes. As I think Member Brightfuse pointed out, for the most part, these major issues that we've addressed we've been able to reach consensus with very few exceptions. But that's a credit to the fact that everybody's around the table, that there's a dialogue. And I think that's a really important emphasis. I know in the presentations, we may not have that as clear, but it turns out that that's a big point, just like finances. So I think it's a great addition. Let's talk about the financial modeling. There's been some adjustment to that. Let me give some context for that as well. When we began, as everyone knows, we generate 4.9 million tons overall in the county. This is based on DEP numbers, county numbers, evaluation of the private sector, surveys, et cetera. From that, we took out the non-ILA tonnage, and that brought us down to 4.6. The county pointed out that there is some tonnage that does not may go across the scale, but doesn't get charged. or doesn't go across the scale at all. And I want to differentiate it from what some people were asking questions about. For those who live in a community where bulk pickup is a weekly event, if you will, it's not just the tonnage that goes out on your swale, right? We don't measure that. And there's lots of folks who come around and take from that pile, and that's not counted for. What's taken out of that stream is never part of the 4.9 because it doesn't cross the scale. We know that there's beneficial reuse of that, but it's not part of the 4.9. So there shouldn't be any fear that somehow we're missing or we were over counting that. But there was a concern that there's some tonnage that's utilized for beneficial use that is not charged for, is not currently subject to any tipping fee or surcharge. And from a consultancy standpoint, I could see why the consultants would say, well, that should be included because you may want to at some point. But a more conservative approach is to recognize that there is some tonnage that is not presently and really left for another day. The policy decision is whether it ever should be. And there may be reasons for it, and there may be superior reasons why not. But the more conservative approach was to try to figure out what is that number. To the county's credit, Natasha's back there, she had initially suggested it might be somewhere around 10%. And going back to DEP numbers, it aligned almost perfectly. Natasha will be handing out Powerball numbers later in the meeting. But in looking at validated data, both with her and Steve, we were able to identify that roughly it was 482,000 tons, which is just around 10% of the total. Doesn't cross the scales, used for beneficial use, isn't charged, even though we know what it is and the tonnage is. And so in working with Daniel, his team, working with Natasha and Steve, and working and validating the numbers, the view was that it would be more conservative to extract that for the purposes of identifying the surcharge, what it would take to fund the system. Reducing that 10% roughly equates to, I don't know, 21, 22 cents, whatever it is, but I'll let Daniel present on that. But I think this is a more conservative approach and eliminates some legitimate concern that the current state of affairs doesn't charge for it. Whether down the road the governing board decides to or not, that's a whole other question. And there's no reason to actually go into that if we can take a more conservative approach, particularly where we know what the numbers are, it's validated, it is analyzed from a trend perspective as well. So we know the numbers generally accurate, and the impact on what the funding will be is minimal. We're talking about, literally we're talking about 5-6 cents a month, whatever it might be. So Daniel, if you could just outline and the analysis, and if you have something to show, I know you handed out, you distributed to the members the change in the financial modeling.
Yes, and thank you. And I think you really presented in broad brushstrokes exactly what we did and why we did it. And we think that it's an appropriate conservative approach. And as stated, we also believe that there may be strategies, policy decisions in the future to address that. I mean, the good news is that this is material that's being beneficially used. Some of it stays within the county. We know some of it leaves the county. Probably the best example, grocery stores, for example, will backhaul recyclable materials to a distribution hub so that it gets beneficially used, but it never crosses a scale when it leaves Broward County. The impact is nominal. It increased the estimate for surcharge by approximately 20 cents. And as we've discussed, that will increase over time, but really through CPI, not through anything else. And of course, if we can address or include that material in a program, it will bring down the assessment from what is estimated. So we will continue to monitor the situation, and we will bring any changes back before this body for further consideration.
All right. So the surcharge that we had been talking about the last presentation, what the executive committee, the governing board has been presented with, and some of the cities at this point was $2 was the estimate. With this adjustment,
$2.22. So
Sorry?
again, $2.22. So it has gone up, and it's proportionate to the portion.
And to be clear, that's per ton.
Per ton.
And so for a household estimated at 1.3 tons generated annually, the household charge goes from $2.60 to
$2.90, just under $3.
okay, about 30 cents for the year, whole year for the household.
Correct.
Okay. With respect to do you agree that with respect to whether or not it can be charged or not should be left for another day?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Questions from the members? Okay. I thank you for doing that. Were there any other adjustments to the financial modeling from the last meeting?
Nope.
All right, and from the county's perspective?
All good.
All good. Mr. Cole, any concerns?
All good.
Any other changes since last week that the consultants have worked on? Okay. Ed, go ahead.
Do we have to revisit, since we voted to approve that last time, do we have to revisit it?
I
Or
think
just vote it again.
I think it ought to be voted on today again. I think we need to be clear about that. But it's up to the
Well, I
will.
meant, do we have to
I don't-
rescind last week?
I wouldn't necessarily rescind, but I would vote on this as an amended plan.
Okay.
Because I think we approved the plan. It was
Yeah.
correct. We're not taking exception with it. These are improvements to the plan to strengthen both from the perspective of the legal alignment, so no one can criticize or have to go hunting for where the compliance is. And then the second issue is a more conservative financial approach.
So just vote to amend?
Mr. Cole.
Just to be clear, you're voting to recommend it
Right.
to recommend it to the governing board. So you're yes, it's a motion to recommend this amended plan to the governing board.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Member Newton, seconded by Member Shuham. Any discussion on that? Go ahead and call the question.
Motion to recommend the amendment on the master plan. Chair Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fur,
Yes.
Member Shuham, Member Horland, Member Mateo Bowen, Member Rydell,
Yes.
Member Mead,
Yes.
Member Caggiano,
Yes.
Member AJ Ryan,
Yes.
Member Newton,
Yes.
Member, I don't see Member Dunn, Member Colborn. All right, we are good.
I think member Murphy Salamone is on.
She's on, did you want all the alternate votes as well? If we don't.
Yeah,
need
well,
them? Okay,
because one of the medium cities, Mr. Rydell is not here, she can't vote on this.
Josh is fine.
Oh, is she on phone?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then she can't vote. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't.
I'm virtual, Mr. Cole, virtual.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
unanimous.
That
I'm sorry.
resolves that issue. Thank you, Daniel, to you and your team. I know there's been a lot of work this week in collaboration with one of the key points I think that was raised, and you've raised it as well. And it's been emphasized in the documents you've given us that this is something that needs to be reviewed annually by the governing board in terms of the tonnage, the surcharge, the analysis, everything that goes into, including what level of non-certified tons are part of that. So appreciate the work that you all have done.
And we're not doing this alone. So there are a lot of people, including yourself, general counsel, the executive director, and the county attorney's office and county staff. So all of that effort and focus is appreciated. That's what got us to this point.
Okay, thank you. And to that point, I want to thank Mr. May in coordinating all the meetings that had to occur this week and participating and making sure that we were analyzing this accurately. All right, let's move to section 10, getting the yes. Meeting with elected and staff update and the master plan presentation. I know that you've already begun that. I don't know that there's much to update us on other than if you would, I know going forward, if there's anybody who wishes to have individual meetings or they're still outstanding or they're setting their workshops, we need to, everyone needs to let us know. We can't, particularly since we're looking at an April 17th date, we should not wait. And I want to thank cities like Coral Springs and Davie and Lauderhill who have already begun that process, weren't waiting for the final product to ask their questions, and we should be continuing to do that.
Yeah, and it is helpful, right? We've had one-on-one meetings with nearly everybody on the governing board. And we have another meeting this week, and there may be one or two others. So we're driving towards wrapping up that phase. But when we come before your commission, whether it's for a workshop or whatever the name is used in advance of a formal vote, please share through the executive director exactly what the issues are as you see them, which may be distinct and different from what was shared with us during a one-on-one. Right? We're now asking to open the aperture and look at the entire commission. So while we have essentially a standard presentation. If there are specific issues, we want to make sure that we are addressing those at either in advance and during the meeting, certainly during the meeting, so that we can develop that comfort level that this is an appropriate initiative to get behind for each of your lay member communities.
Before I go to Member Terrebonne, I want to thank Member Horland, as Madam President of the League, has been showing up to all these workshops as well. And it does give a vote of confidence, right, to know that the League is there, that this is representing much. You know, it's hard at these workshops for us all to attend, but your presence there sends a very strong message. And I thank Mary Lou as well, who's been attending all these. I'm sure regrets having to attend all these as well. But thank you for that. Okay, Member Terrebonne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want the record to reflect that I would love to accompany you and the executive director, Mr. May, to the following cities. These are individuals that I have great relationships with, and I think that it would help ease any concerns they may have. So Lauderdale Lakes, Miramar, North Lauderdale, and Margate. Anthony, if that's okay with you, I would love to assist with the presentations there. I would have loved to attend Lauder Hill, but I put out a filler and never heard back. So these are the 4 cities I would like to assist with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and as a model, I think what Member Terrebonne just said is helpful if anybody, you don't have to do it here today, but just let the executive director know. Sometimes these dates move, so it's a matter of communication, but make sure that Mr. May, you're responding as members volunteer. I don't know why Sunrise wasn't on great relationship list with Member Terrebonne, but I'll see if an embossed invitation might smooth that over. Member Shuham.
I had given my list of cities already to Sam. My question is this: with each city that you go to, is there the opportunity, I've asked this question different ways, to present to that workshop or commission presentation an analysis of their solid waste cost versus anticipated?
It's a complicated question.
I
So
know.
Some items we can describe what the as-is conditions are, right? Level of service, cost of service. We can tie it then to the maximum service charges, right? So where do we think that we're going to get to working together? A lot, and something that was shared in Coral Springs, on the education and outreach, we're really thinking of the authority as the hub and all the member communities as the spokes that form the actual wheel. So a lot of the cost will be borne by the authority, and then sort of share it and distribute it through the ILA communities. On the financial approach, we're trying to minimize what the actual impact is in terms of administration. So we can speak generally. We can speak specific to what we can speak specifically to, and then generally how we see the authority operating and the impacts on the.
I can't emphasize, at least in my city, they are going to want to see, here's what we do now. So someone, Sam, is going to have to get with our public works director, who I know he knows well, and they're going to have to put together a slide. This is what we do now. And then there's going to have to be a slide that says, we're not 100% sure what this is going to look like, but this is what we think it's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. I just think, it takes some math before each of these meetings. For me, I think that would be incredibly helpful, obviously with a caveat that we don't exactly know, but with the understanding that generally in life, as the quantity of customers goes up, the unit price goes down.
Yep.
So, that would just be what I would be looking for.
Okay. And I will say, Member Horland shared with us a one-pager that as a concept, and I think it's appropriate to develop a one-pager, so the as-is conditions, and try to answer exactly what your question is, which is, what does the future look like? So I think we can be directionally accurate without absolute precision.
I would note that, from the beginning, SCS has been requesting cities to break this down. And I'm not criticizing. What I'm saying is that it's been requested. And I think part of the challenge is it's very complicated. We can step back and say, if you're a city that sends everything to waste to energy, okay, we can give you some broad parameters. Very simple. Because you're not recycling, right? And we know what that is. If you're recycling now and you have a recycling contract that's $150 a ton, we can tell you that we think we're going to provide that. It gets more complicated as the issue gets mixed between general fund and what gets charged the residents. Many
I
cities
get
are
it.
back on it.
And
But
thankfully in Hollywood, that's not complicated, but I understand every city's different. But I don't think that we can allow that complexity to preclude the effort.
That's not my point. My point is that to the extent, I think this is what Sam's work's been, is trying to get the public works director to get the equivalent of Member Horland's one pager. That's got to be the case. So for those of us around the table, that's essentially what we have to give SES before they walk in. So what I was doing was trying to make a call again to what SES has been requesting from the outset. I think the model is that one page. It's easy to digest. You can see it all. It might be more complicated for some different cities and maybe less complicated for some cities. But I think the call out from Sam to the public works folks has to be, give us as soon as possible the equivalent of that with whatever caveats additionally you need that will help us. And that has to go out urgently. I know we've not expressed kind of a nuclear option previously on this. I know it's created some angst for the consultants in that not all the information's been delivered, but we're at that point now. If cities are going to say, hey, I need to know exactly that, then they need to participate. We cannot expect our consultants and Sam to figure, oh, it's beautiful, by the way, the birds. Expect our consultants and Sam to
Get
so it's a beautiful night. It's a beautiful night out there. Yeah. All right. So I think we have that. Member Horland.
Mr. Chair, and thank you for your kind words. Listen, we're all in this together, and I think the more support that we can show, the better. I know I had asked previously if there is the ability, while this is ever changing, scheduling these workshops and meetings, if it could be a Google Doc that we could view that so that we can see with our schedules if we can attend, just to be in the audience and support Mr. May. Having attended 3 out of the 4 presentations so far, just a few observations from the audience. I think, well, let me back up. I think, and I know Member Bright Cruz, you had been asked by Tamarack to do a presentation. I think going forward, it's important that everything go through the executive director now that we have one in place so that we're speaking with one voice. And I think that whether it is Member Mater Bowen or anyone else that's asked to be a part of this ROTS team at any of the meetings, that we have talking points. So again, we're speaking with one voice and we can, obviously tailor that to the commission or council in front of us. I think it's important that the director perhaps get up and introduce SES for the presentation. And then that elected to elected conversation is so important to bring it home. What I'm going to say to the members, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but if you are scheduling this in your city, to please make sure you allow enough time, because there's nothing worse than sitting there and watching the team get up there and being told there's 10 more items on the agenda and how much time do you need? Because this is vitally important. I know in our city, we've scheduled one 1-hour workshop with a second one as a backup in case we need it. So if you can do so, it's very important that there's enough time, because as we've seen with these presentations, there are varying degrees of understanding with the elected officials. One city was very informed and asked very detailed questions, and another city did not. So we don't want to have the team that's presenting have to feel rushed. And I think that it's there's a lot of information out there, a lot of information to digest. And Daniel, thank you for considering the option of the one pager. I think it'll be very important for people to have something in front of them, especially with the financials in there. So I just wanted to add that observation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Excellent. Any comments from the members online? Okay.
So Chair, if I may, my wife tells me that I repeat myself a lot. So let me repeat myself. It would be very helpful to be certain that the toolkit has been distributed through every town or county or village city manager, the toolkit that has been in play for many, many months now. Also a copy of the executive summary. And then thirdly, a copy of the master plan. or at least a link to it. Because one of my observations is that there is varying degrees of engagement by members of the commission and councils that we've been before. And there are some simple, easily digestible packages of information that can help set a baseline of understanding.
I would note as well, while we're talking about the member support, we have seen the progressive increase of support from the public, particularly groups that carry great weight in our communities, either as ambassadors for their own organizations or more broadly. And they volunteered. They want to participate. We know we've had members come out to talk about composting in Sunrise, and I know they've been out to others. So part of this effort is also to make sure that we're harnessing the public support that exists in organizations that you might, and were quite skeptical at the start of this, who have now become strong advocates for what we're trying to accomplish here because of watching this process. So I'll talk to Sam about how the best way to do that, whether it's by, again, the Google Doc or otherwise. But we know that there are ambassadors with our own communities, whether it's our own sustainability boards or neighboring sustainability boards or the Sierra Club, League of Women Voters, and others who have said they want to be part of this process. So let's not lose the energy from that and the persuasive power that they bring to the table as well. Okay, any further discussion on that? Member, sorry.
Yeah, one of the things that I think that is, because it's kind of coming down to cost a lot, but I think we forgot a little bit of where some of the beginning discussion on this, where we were thinking about the waste energy plant out in Broward landfill. And a lot of our discussion moved toward, instead of that, let's divert as much as we can to compost, to recycling, to all that. There's a cost if we don't do that, because you have to build another waste energy plant. And I think people need to be thinking that there's a cost to transporting all of this up to Okeechobee. Those are opportunity costs that are being lost, that people aren't realizing. If we don't do this, here's what you have to do. And that's going to get lost unless we kind of remind people of that. You know, those communities near the Broward landfill, Miramar, Southwest Ranches, you guys were successful in having a transition away from what the initial thoughts were on this. But there is but it came with a challenge, and that challenge was everything we put into our master plan, and so that has to work, or things have to we have to be rethinking. So when you know people are going, no, it's $2, it could be billions, because Miami-Dade just passed for a new waste energy plant for $2 billion. $2 billion.
That's gotta be.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's something, it's like, do this or this. Yeah, so I don't think we should lose that part of the argument.
Member Kajian.
I was lucky enough to be able to take a walk around the waste energy plant the other day. And they have an opportunity to put a fourth burner in there. And we should be looking at doing that because garbage just keeps coming and we got to be able to get rid of it. And as much as some people don't like the idea of burning it, we still have to do it. So the waste energy and the energy that comes from it, the whole plant was just amazing. And that needs to be something that we need to continue looking at.
Obviously, in the master plan, we have not addressed the issue of waste energy in the sense of expanding it. That's been a commitment of the executive committee and the governing board to not make that a part of this plan. They're a private entity. Whatever they decide to do, they're going to do. It is not part of this, and it's not part of the funding structure or otherwise. So for some communities, that's a third rail, right? And we've been very clear about that. That's not the role of the solid waste authority. But the corollary to that is exactly what Vice Chair said. If you're opposed to it, then you got to work twice as hard to divert. Yes. You cannot be this can't be a just a single issue. I'm only against this, but I'm not for all of the other diversion efforts that may cost a little bit. But if you're truly against those issues, then you have an obligation, and I think we've all committed that, have an obligation to participate even more strongly in the diversion zero waste effort. And I think that that's been the strongest message to communities that are on the edge about those issues. Some communities could care less about that, but then that's to the vice chair's point. Then it's going to cost you if you don't commit to this, because that's the only options left. Member Horland.
Quickly, Mr. Chair, I was just thinking with our presentations to cities, are we still waiting? Are we still waiting for the cities to contact us for presentations? Do we have a plan in place, either to the executive director and utilizing Alyssa or SES, to start calling the cities and saying, when can we get before you? Because my fear is now, as this clock is continuing to wind down, that there's going to be a crunch time and there's not going to be enough time to get out to these cities if we don't start making some phone calls.
So next point, I know that the calls have been made, but to the point of not wanting to get whipsawed at the end, where someone says, and I don't want to litigate against our colleagues, but what we don't want to find out is in July, somebody says, well, I've been asking, and we don't have a documented effort. Well, that's not actually the case, because we've reached out on this date and this date and this date. We talked to this public works director. We talked to this city manager. We talked to this elected, and no one asked for it. But I think we need to be able to document the efforts as well.
And it is documented, and it's a push and pull. We're asking, we are reaching out proactively, and we're also asking members to contact us. So between the two and our colleagues at Mercury are persistent in reaching out. But for example, we have a potential conflict between two communities that want to have a workshop on the same night, and we have to be clear-eyed that we can't commit to one without a firm commitment for the other. So it's first in, first out.
Okay. I know the executive director had a spreadsheet that he was starting to keep track of that. I just want to make sure, again, that's making me nervous that we're waiting for them and that we're
proactively
Okay,
reaching.
great. Thank you, Daniel.
Just,
Okay, and for the 17th, we need a very detailed presentation on that. So to Mercury, I know that's not your, but Mercury ought to be prepared to say what's on the list, because that's when the clock really is going to get rolling. Member Shuham.
Understood.
so I could not agree more with Member Shuham. I think the spreadsheet, not only workshops, but the actual, what did I say? I'm sorry, Member Horland. I agree with myself too. But on that spreadsheet, Sam, the date that it is on a commission's agenda for approval, that needs to be on there. We don't have that yet in Hollywood, but so workshop if they're doing it, but also agenda date. And I would suggest for each city that they have a backup agenda. So, working backwards. So maybe the second one is before their July break. Remember, most cities are not convening after the 4th of July until after August 17th. So you really are looking at end of June to get these on city agendas.
Schedule right now. I'm sending out some emails and I'm talking to everybody to confirm all these dates.
Fantastic.
Member
Thank you.
Brikers.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Agree 100%. I would just ask for a little bit more detail. If we go out to a municipality and we do the presentation, but for whatever reason, they delay on the vote, if we can get some feedback on that, so that we're just tracking, and we're checking off municipalities so we can continue to direct our focus on those ones that have the most questions, maybe the most concerns, and really eliminate the ones that are fine with it, and really direct our efforts on the municipalities that are left over and what the real concerns are for those municipalities.
I would note one resource drain is that at one of the city workshops, individual members of the commission wanted individual meetings. They were not representatives. That's fine. That's not within the budget for SCS. That's gonna have to rely on Sam to work with public works directors to schedule that meeting. If it turns out there needs to be a heavier lift or a second workshop to deal with, we'll deal with that one next, because there'll be some cities where a workshop's just not necessary, right? So we'll figure out the resource issue as we begin the 17th. We're going to have to be very precise on that, because we can only ask so much of SCS. We've set a budget with so many meetings, to the extent that there's a city that says, we won't need a workshop, that's helpful, because perhaps there might be an opportunity to do a second in a city that's having a more difficult time getting to yes. Member Ryan.
Thank you, Chair.
I do agree with Mayor Bright Cruz, but I would say our focus should be on population and on size. So we should focus on the large cities and put most of our resources towards the large cities, medium cities, because we have to get to a certain number in order to pass it. So I would implore the executive committee and this team, this road team that we have going on, to focus on those major cities because we definitely need their vote more than anything. Thank you.
From the beginning, we've distributed the resources to all cities, and we're not taking any chances with all. We want to bring all on. If there's an issue about resource allocation, we can discuss that amongst the executive committee and ultimately with the governing board. But right now, we've been very careful to treat all cities equally, and I think the smaller cities that need help have been able to find it in other ways, and we'll continue to do that. We'll rely on Sam to work with their public works directors to do that. Okay, any further questions on getting to yes? All right, thank you. Master plan and facilities amendment schedule, Mr. Cole.
The schedule is up on the screen. So today, you have voted to recommend the master plan to the governing board. So that has been done. So on April 17th, the governing board will hopefully adopt the master plan. That afternoon, the master plan and the recommended facilities amendment will be sent to the cities. That triggers the 120-day period. That 120-day period ends on August 15th. We need cities representing 80% of the population of all the municipal parties to approve that, plus the county. And that's what we need by August 15th, which is, I think, one day before the August 16th, or maybe 2 days before the August 17th drop dead date. So it all worked out, but there's no leeway. So if the governing board does not adopt the master plan on April 17th, we have a problem because the cities will not have their full 120 days. And this has to be delivered to the cities on the 17th that afternoon.
Okay, so we all know what our work is. Member Ryan, your card's up. So no. Okay. Any questions on that schedule? I think we all understand it. All right, going back into the agenda, meeting minutes, our motion on the March 20th, 2025 meeting minutes. Motion by Member Horland, seconded by Member Newton. Any discussion? Any changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, approved. Interim Executive Director update. I know we have a limited one because we've covered a lot of the issues.
Yeah, just basically, we've hit some of the cities, said Lauderhill, Davie, Weston, Coral Springs. We've got more schedule coming up. We have been meeting with the public works directors in those cities prior to the meetings, and getting the numbers and trying to get it all. There's a lot of moving parts to the assessments, basically how they're being assessed, whether through ad valorem, whether it's through a utility bill, whether it's through a solid waste assessment. So we've got to really look at all of that, how they're billed through their disposal sites. But we are getting to that to give you a bottom line for each residential customer. The bottom line is basically $3 per residential household. So residential household service. So, but we are working with the public works directors on each one of them for their city so we can bring that to them at the presentations. If you have any other presentations, we're scheduling them out. We're reaching out to all the individual cities. If we haven't got to yours yet, please let us know. And Corey from Mercury, the Mercury team, will be reaching out to schedule it. So that's really it. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And again, I want to emphasize to the members, I've seen Sam's work. He's been this past couple of weeks has been very intense, both in terms of workshops, but also trying to get to these issues that keep coming up in order to better not only the presentation, but the overall plan. Member Horland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sam, I know this was your first agenda being sent out under your name. If I could respectfully ask that you copy TAC when you send out our agenda and backup material, only so that we're assured that staff is getting the information the same time we are. It's helpful when we have those conversations. And then I would just like to take a moment and congratulate our executive director. There was a photo floating on the social media where you were presented with the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Public Works Association.
Hey! Nice. And I would note that the executive director is humble because he didn't tell any of the rest of us. Congratulations. Congratulations. To your point, Member Horland, on distribution of, and this is to, as you say, to help Sam, all of the agendas and the back materials need to go to the governing board, the TAC, and all the members of the executive committee when they go out. We've kind of committed to doing that, so the governing board also knows as well. So let's just make sure it's just one distribution list when it comes to the backup and work and agenda for the executive committee meetings. We're moving now to the governing board, so it won't be as big a deal between now and the 17th, but just as an emphasis going forward. With respect to the TAC update, the materials that were presented here and provided to the members of the executive committee has been transmitted to the chair of the TAC. That'll be distributed to the members as well. We do need to have TAC look at this one pager issue that has been raised for a cost. I would ask Sam to get with the chair of TAC and request quick action as assistance so that we have some redundancy in trying to generate what the members have been asking for. So we'll deal with that. And then lastly, TAC, I know, has put on for its agenda the C&D issue. So this dovetails nicely with the executive committee C&D update. Member Mead.
Thank you, Chair. At our last meeting, we had some discussion about the proposed document that was put before us. We decided at that point that it would be imperative to get input not only from the waste industry, but from the construction industry and from the haulage industry to get their input. So we have scheduled a roundtable meeting on April 14th so that members of the industry can provide input on that. We hope to very soon after that have a document that we can present to the executive board for approval. It was also, I think we had supposed early on that the C&D could be treated as a separate item, and it has subsequently been discovered that it's going to have to be a part of the ILA approval. So we're going to have to go through that process, and I would make myself available to any meetings that you would have with cities if it'll help to put forth this C&D committee as well as any other portion of the approval process. So.
Okay, thank you, Member Mead. Daniel, I know that the 14th is set. Invitations are going out. Is that correct?
Yes, there's one last detail that we need to work out in terms of availability in this room because we want to have a few hours and there's a constraint on the back end. That will be resolved today and communication will go out.
Okay, and the invitation is not just to processors, it's to the construction industry as well, correct?
Correct. We were fortunate the last subcommittee meeting, there was a representative from the industry, which sort of opened our eyes. We need to cast a wider net. So we work through our traditional channels, but this is open to all. So anybody that would like to participate, but we're at the point now, we need to have a conversation about what is the appropriate path forward so that we can build consensus around that, recognizing that we need to start somewhere. And then we have the opportunity to build on that and make it a stronger ordinance in the future.
The only addendum to that is we need to make sure to invite TAC, not just as a subtle, but so that we're not duplicating, because sometimes at TAC, they'll say, have we heard from industry? Have you heard from construction? If we're doing this workshop, I hesitate to call it joint because there's all sorts of other issues, but it should be the equivalent. So Sam, if you could work with the chair of TAC, this is the opportunity for them to participate. We can't do multiple of these with TAC. Without a need to do. We don't want to unnecessarily duplicate the efforts of the industry.
Yeah, and the reason that we want it to be in workshop format is that it's not just one-way conversation. We want to sit around the table and get to the heart of the issues and really understand where the different perspectives are coming from so that we can forge that consensus path forward.
Okay. Member Newton.
Yes, my public works director has gone through this thoroughly, and I want to pass this out. And just so you see, I don't want to go over the whole thing right now, but I know there's two things we're talking about. One is just C&D just to do a dumpster say and you go one dump. The other thing is they have to separate the wood from the construction block or concrete and this and that and the other. How you have to weigh it, all this, getting the permit. And a lot of the construction people in my city, I'm very not close to them, but I know them because we're a very small city. And they said they're just paying the fine. It's cheaper. They're just going to pay the fine up front or whenever because it's cheaper for them to have someone constantly trying to weigh what it is. Then they have to go to take it to a site and then get the ticket, bring it back. you'll see if you go through the whole thing. My director went through and just talked to some of them, and I've talked to some of them. They said easily they're going to pay the $3,000 fine. In the long run, it's cheaper for them to do that, and they're just going to throw it to the dump. And that, to me, that's not the purpose of what we're doing here.
Right.
So we really got to look a little closer at what we're doing here. Definitely one stream is going to be the best way if we're going to get the contractors to actually do what we want them to do. But by single streaming it, they say, well, we can't just put piles out in front of where we're doing our job and then get one truck to take each one to wherever they're going, then get it weighed, get the ticket, take it back to the city, make sure they have it, so they're all in line with everything. And they said, it's just too time consuming and it's not going to happen. So we just got to look a little farther than that. So just why don't you take a look at that and digest it and go from there.
Daniel.
Yeah, the intention is not to necessarily segregate the material on site. It is to aggregate it and then send it for processing so that we can extract the value from that waste stream and keep that material out of the landfill.
I know, but they just said separate it and then, whatever. It's just.
It's not, the processor's doing that. And I think it's important.
Well, there was two ways to sit in there at one time. Maybe I just missed.
Maybe it was a policy, but the point, if you look at Lee County and the others, you can't do that. You just, as you're pointing out and your director pointed out, it's not workable to source separate on site. It's got to be done by the processors who hopefully are certified with that, whatever that means in the context. Right. But the idea is to certainly make it easier. And to the extent that, it becomes a cost of doing business of fines, then it's a matter of deciding whether the fine's too low. Right.
I know. That's part of my point too, was if they just easy right away, there wasn't even a question. It was like, I'll just pay the fine.
Yeah. And I think that the point of this, and it's good, we have to get the industry involved. We had to hear things like this where we're missing, particularly this is a unique environment, perhaps different than what Lee County is, right? So we understand that. But we have to be careful that we don't end up in an analysis paralysis on this, because this is a large, and there'll be plenty of folks who can come up with an idea as to why there's a problem with this because they don't want to do it. And so we're going to have there's going to be at some point a really come to Jesus moment, so to speak, or however you want to phrase it, where we just got to say this needs to be done. But let's try to vet all of the potential trip points, as you're pointing out. And this is a good example. Each of the public work directors and the cities need to do this through TAC and otherwise, to do something similar and say, hey, for our city, this is a unique issue. And maybe 40,000 is not the right number, whatever it may be, right, as they're pointing out. So this is a great model. I would strongly suggest the members share it with your staff and have, be prepared on the 14th, quite frankly, through TAC to start raising these issues. And I thank Member Mead for leading the charge on this.
Yep.
Yes.
Just a quick comment. Source separation may work at certain occasions, but I agree with you. It's not going to be something that's going to be available for all construction. And there's going to have to be separation at the facility. And that's primarily, I think, where we want to go with this.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good job. All right, any further comments on that? Okay, great, thank you. Executive Committee, Education and Outreach Subcommittee, Member Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our subcommittee has been working diligently with the consultant to make sure that we launch an influencer campaign. In fact, if any of you have been to the social media channels, you'll see that video up there. We have billboards going up. Additionally, there is a pledge campaign going on where we're asking residents to take the pledge to support the work of the SWA. And that pledge is then going to be the tool that we'll use to reach out to their local elected official to show their support for the work. On the 16th of April, our next PIO meeting will be in the city of Plantation. So thank you to Member Horland for facilitating that. We'll continue going out to community events, continue working with Broward schools to get the message out. That's it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
The taking the pledge is, I want to thank Elisa for coming out to Sunrise for the Sun Sentinels Prime meeting that was on a Saturday morning. There were lots of folks taking the pledge from all over, and what was great, by putting the posters up, they were saying what cities they were from. And so you have an opportunity at your local concerts. You have just put the tent up. It's easily, you can replicate it easily. It's low cost, and it helps to continue to build that moment, that moment that we're trying to get to. Remember to get your cards up. No, anything? All right, thank you, Member Dunn. All right, that's all the business we have on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Member Newton, seconded by? You need a second? Otherwise, we'll just stay here all day. Member Mead, all in favor, say aye. All right, thank you. Well done.
You're on record. Yeah.